Oh, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Grab your popcorn because it's time to dive into the cosmic web of delusion, obfuscation, and convolution that Dr. Umar Johnson has spun around the arrest of the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Puffy Combs, better known as P. Diddy.
Sean Puffy Combs' federal charges have little, if anything, to do with domestic abuse or pedophilia. His major crime federally is he's being accused of transporting women across state lines to engage in what we call not Casey, not the freak-offs, not underage girls. But why am I bringing this up? Because I don't support prostitution either. I do not support men paying for the sugar box. I do not support black women having to exploit their sugar box in order to pay their bills. With that being said, prostitution is the oldest female business on the planet Earth. Prostitution is the oldest female business on the planet Earth. Prostitution is the oldest female business on the planet Earth. It is the trafficking that Sean Puffy Combs is being accused of. Not domestic abuse, not freak-offs, not stomping out Cassie, not engaging in sex with underage women. It is interstate trafficking. That is the charge. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up, peace God, because when I listen to the news, they're not talking about the evidence against Sean Puffy Combs. When I listen to the news, they're not talking about the evidence of Sean Puffy Combs. When I listen to the news, I have yet to hear anybody give me a specific piece of interstate trafficking evidence against Sean Puffy Combs. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it for the low political IQ Negroes. I'm going to say it for the average political IQ Negroes. And I'm going to say it for the high IQ Negroes. I haven't seen or heard a single piece of evidence against Sean Puffy Combs. I ain't read it in the New York Times. I ain't read it in the Philadelphia Inquirer. I ain't heard it on CNN. I ain't seen it on headline news. Where is the evidence that Sean Puffy Combs engaged in interstate trafficking? I keep hearing about Cassie when I turn on the news. Why are we hearing about Cassie when Cassie has nothing to do with the federal indictment? I don't think any black man should have 1,000 bottles of baby oil. I don't think any black man needs 1,000 bottles of baby oil. But I haven't seen anywhere in federal law where owning 1,000 bottles of baby oil is a federal crime. Brothers and sisters, are you with me so far? Brothers and sisters, are you with me so far? Do you understand, overstand, and understand what the most requested black scholar in the world is saying right now? Do you understand and overstand and understand what the most requested black scholar in the world is saying right now? Do you understand, overstand, and understand what the premier Pan-Africanist on the planet is saying to you right now? Baby oil is not a federal crime. Stomping out Cassie, he was not charged with a crime. The freak-offs are not crimes. So why do we keep hearing about Cassie? Why do we keep hearing about baby oil? Why do we keep hearing about freak-offs? Where are the federal charges? And why are the charges being sealed? Why did the feds seal the charges against Sean Puffy Combs? I'm going to tell you one reason why the feds sealed the charges against Sean Puffy Combs. One of the biggest reasons they sealed the charges against Sean Puffy Combs is because the evidence is probably weak. The evidence is probably weak. And because the evidence is probably weak that he is guilty of interstate trafficking, and because the evidence is probably weak that he is guilty of interstate trafficking, they had to seal the charges. They had to hide the charges from you and I. They had to hide the charges from you and I long enough for the public execution to be carried out.
But before we embark on this verbal expedition, let me just say this. The more I hear some of these arguments, the more my third eye sheds a tear of intellectual exhaustion. Dr. Umar, brother, you're out here doing verbal gymnastics like Simone Biles, but you ain't sticking the landing, my guy. Let's dissect this mess bit by bit because Dr. Umar's defense of P. Diddy feels like a labyrinthine journey through false equivalencies, overinflated rhetoric, and some good old-fashioned conspiracy theorizing. First of all, the main crux of the argument is about federal charges against P. Diddy for interstate trafficking. Now, I can't help but notice how Dr. Umar repeatedly, almost ritualistically, chants the phrase interstate trafficking as if that's the silver bullet that will absolve Puff Daddy of all other alleged misdeeds. Brother Umar, let's pump the brakes. Just because the federal charges don't specifically focus on Cassie or domestic abuse, doesn't mean we need to sweep these serious allegations under the rug, or worse, dismiss them as irrelevant noise. You see, Dr. Umar is out here trying to distract the masses with this grand proclamation about how there's no evidence of trafficking, as if the legal system is plotting some grand conspiracy to unjustly frame Diddy. But here's the problem. The existence of federal charges does not negate the relevance of other accusations. The media is covering Cassie's allegations of abuse because it's significant. It's relevant. It's what people care about because these are serious claims, and just because it doesn't fit into Dr. Umar's narrow interpretation of what's important doesn't mean it should be sidelined. And let's talk about that baby oil rhetoric, shall we? Oh, my chakras are aching with laughter here. What in the world does baby oil have to do with a federal indictment? Dr. Umar seems to be clutching at the most irrelevant details, trying to distract us from the more pressing issues. Sure, no one's saying baby oil is a crime, but brother, that's not the point. The point is that it's part of a broader narrative of behavior that's questionable at best and deeply troubling at worst. Focusing on trivialities like the legality of baby oil ownership is not only disingenuous, it's downright absurd. You can own all the baby oil in the world, but if you're using it in a context that's tied to exploitation or abuse, we have a bigger problem. Now, I'll grant Dr. Umar this. He's a master of turning up the volume on the conspiracy dial. He's out here talking about sealed charges like it's some Da Vinci Code level cover-up orchestrated by the federal government to take down yet another successful black man. But let's be real, sealing charges is a common legal practice, not an indicator of weak evidence. It's done to protect the integrity of the case, the privacy of the individuals involved, and sometimes, yes, to prevent public interference before the case is ready to go to trial. This ain't no secret Illuminati takedown, Dr. Umar, it's standard judicial procedure. And while we're on the subject of conspiracy theories, can we just pause for a moment to reflect on the absolute lack of logical consistency here? Dr. Umar spends an extraordinary amount of time hammering home that the feds are hiding something, that there's no evidence of P. Diddy's guilt in the trafficking charges. Yet, in the same breath, he seems to dismiss entirely the well-documented and serious claims made by Cassie and others. So let me get this straight, Doc. On one hand, you need incontrovertible evidence from the feds to even consider that Diddy might have crossed the line, but on the other, you're willing to disregard allegations of abuse without so much as a second thought? The cognitive dissonance is real. Let's face it, Dr. Umar's defense of P. Diddy is less about justice and more about pushing a narrative that fits into his worldview. He's so focused on defending black men from what he perceives to be systemic attacks by the federal government that he's willing to overlook the fact that sometimes those same black men might actually be in the wrong. Accountability, Dr. Umar, accountability. No one is above reproach, not even the great scene Puffy Combs. Dr. Umar would have us believe that this is all part of some grand strategy to publicly execute P. Diddy's career, but I say this, if Diddy's career is on the chopping block, it's because of his own actions, not some nebulous government plot. Let's not act like the man is an innocent lamb being led to slaughter. The accusations against him are serious, and they deserve to be treated as such. This isn't about protecting black excellence, it's about ensuring that people, regardless of their status or wealth, are held accountable for their actions. In conclusion, while Dr. Umar may try to obfuscate and complicate the issue with his linguistic pyrotechnics and rhetorical sleight of hand, the reality remains clear. P. Diddy is facing serious allegations, and it's not just about trafficking. Cassie's accusations of abuse and exploitation are not something to be brushed aside because they don't fit neatly into Dr. Umar's narrative. And while Dr. Umar may be the self-proclaimed most requested black scholar on the planet, he's clearly missing the mark here. It's time to stop focusing on conspiracy theories and distractions like baby oil, and start addressing the very real and very serious allegations that are on the table. Accountability is the name of the game, Dr. Umar, and no amount of verbal acrobatics is going to change that.